You are now listening to the Building Her Dream podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with introverted women entrepreneurs who are building their dream lives and businesses on their own terms. Hosted by business operations strategist, author, and the founder of Building Her Dream, Shayla Burton. To learn more about this podcast and our magazine, visit www.buildingherdream.com. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Building Her Dream podcast. I'm your host and lifelong introvert, Shayla Burton, and I'm so excited to chat with today's guest. She is Karsta Marie, who's a professional speaker, award-winning author, and a coach all the way from Minnesota. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Now, Karsta, I want to ask you a fun question.
Yep,
So, if you could wake up tomorrow and have the perfect dream life, what would that look like for you?
I love this question because I've spent the last 7 years kind of curating an answer for it. And the truth is, I'm
Yeah.
almost there. I think the only thing I would change at this point is that just my business would just be a little farther off the ground. But really,
Okay.
I'm living in a perfect little studio apartment with a view of the lake, which I absolutely
Yeah.
love. And I'm building my dream business, helping women. And my children live nearby, so I get to see them pretty regularly. And just really living a life of freedom, traveling if and when I want and visiting my family when I want and not, right? And
Yes.
being we're on a show about being an introvert. I get to be an introvert a lot of days when I want. So I
Yeah.
just like I'm well on my way. It's like I'm almost there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And sometimes as we age or as the time passes by, like our dream kind of changes a little bit. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but I definitely love your dream. I too just want to have the freedom to do whatever, to work or to not work, to be at home or to travel. I would love a better view, so I'm a little jealous of you.
Yeah, it kind of came up very unexpectedly, but it was on my vision board. So for those of you that don't believe in visualizations and things like that, they absolutely work because I visualized my exact apartment as I have it. So they
Oh,
work.
wow. Very cool. I'll make sure I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So tell me a little bit about you and the work that you do.
So I am a personal development expert. I do, as you mentioned in my intro, I am a motivational speaker. I'm an author. I'm a coach. And my whole purpose for being is to empower women to really be reflective on where they're settling for, I always say the other F word, where they're settling for fine,
Mm,
right? What areas of their life could be better? Like you asked about my ideal life and what that looks like. And so that's actually an exercise I start with my clients. We start there and work to help them overcome the limiting beliefs. I'm a big believer in the power of nurturing a true relationship with yourself, just like you do a partner. And just really getting clarity about what you want and going for it and having the courage and the strength to say, what I have is fine, but I have a vision for better. And
mm,
so, or more, I don't, and really going for that. So that's my ultimate goal. That's sort of my mission and my mantra, which of course all stems from my own backstory, which is long, but that's where I started. I was in fine and I settled, and because it wasn't in alignment with who I am, because it wasn't sort of my ideal life or whatever terminology your viewers would want to use, because it wasn't meant for me and I truly believe that it was fine and it's what I needed to go through, but it wasn't my ultimate purpose. It wasn't what was ultimately meant for me. It gradually fell away. And so at one point in my about 7 years ago, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna burn the rest of it to the ground and start over and rebuild it the way I want it to be. So
Mm. Wow, that's an
yeah.
interesting story. Um, and the work that you do, especially
Yeah.
with like being a motivational speaker, a lot of people wouldn't think that, oh, an introvert would do that. They would think that, but I've talked to a lot of speakers who are actually introverted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when did you first realize that you were an introvert? Because I've been, talking to different people about this, and I'm trying to remember, like, when did I even hear of that term? I know that I was an adult for sure, but when did
Mhm.
you like realize that you were an introvert?
I think when I made the conscious realization was really during over the last 7 years when I've been on my own personal development journey.
Okay.
Um, I I'm there's an actual term. I just saw it the other day. I am an outgoing introvert, as probably many of the speakers that you've talked to. Like I do get some energy from speaking and from being out in the world. But what I've realized over these last few years as I've moved through my journey is I really it fills my cup to be by myself. And when I look back over my life, and kind of yeah, I know hindsight's always 2020, right? But when I look back in reflection, even as a kid, and I don't know if it's because I was an only child, and so part of me being an introvert is just was based on circumstance. But some of my favorite things to do when I was like, I used to like curl up in my closet. I'd make like these little forts, these little nests in my closet with all my babies and my pillows and blankets and like curl up in the closet and read. And I just like, I loved that. And so just quiet, small, cozy spaces, just that's what fills me up so that I can go out and do the work that I do, which also, again, like I said, it does energize me. But what fills me back up is just either by myself or with my children, small, intimate gatherings. And like I said, the realization of that is very new because I thought that because I was outspoken, that meant that I was extroverted. And it's really, I'm not. I am, yes, I'm outspoken and I'm boisterous and I will talk all the time. But
Yeah.
when I really learned the definition of being introverted and learning that it's about where you get your energy, 100%.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really know what it means to be an introvert because, the misconception is that we don't like talking. We always want to be by ourselves. We're antisocial, and that is absolutely not true. It's not true. Now, there are some introverts who are also antisocial,
Yeah.
or they may also be shy, or also might be have social anxiety, but there are introverts who thrive in social situations, but it's just we need to be alone to recharge. And so
Yes.
like we our energy depletes faster.
Mhm.
I find like for myself as I've just been really getting to know myself more, um, I do talk way more than I thought that I did, but it just depends on what the topic is and who I'm talking to.
Mhm.
And so like people wouldn't believe that I had a 12-hour conversation, phone conversation with someone because they don't see me talking a lot. But no, it's just I talk a lot about things that I'm really passionate about. Um, and they also wouldn't believe that I could get up on a stage and talk to hundreds of people either. Um, but yeah, I think there's just different types of introverts.
Yeah, I think that for me, It's the because I'm also an empath, which I know a lot of people say, but like I definitely feed on other people's energy in the room.
Mhm.
And so if
Yeah.
I'm, for example, if I'm up on a stage, it's almost like I can put a wall between myself and the audience. And
Mhm.
so I'm still, even though I'm in a room of hundreds of people, there's sort of this bubble around me, and I'm really still only in my space, absorbing and in my energy. It's just that I'm sharing it,
Yeah.
right? Or if I'm in versus, I should say, if I'm at like a social gathering of a bunch of people that I don't know, that's
Yeah.
really challenging for me. Like you said, I'll go have a conversation with people and that's fine. I'm not shy, although as a child I used to tell people I was, which now again in reflection I'm like, "Oh, see, I knew back then."
Yeah.
um but like if I'm at this party and I'm taking on, if I can sense that there's just weird energy and I start taking that on, that depletes me a lot faster.
Mhm.
Right. So for me, it depends on the energy that's around me and how I can sort of barricade myself from that
Yeah.
a little bit.
That makes a whole lot of sense because, like, I can get on this stage and I'll still have anxiety about it,
Yeah.
but I do really well. People find me funny, even though I'm not telling jokes. But if you put me at a dinner party, like I went to my friend, it was my friend's birthday, and it was she invited, I think, 4 or 5 other people. And so we were just having dinner. I was so uncomfortable because I didn't know any of those people. And in that small environment with a small, intimate
Mhm.
environment with a bunch of strangers, I don't like that. And it's so, and I was trying to figure out, like, what is it about those environments that are so just uncomfortable for me, but then I can be in a different environment and speak to uh, a bunch of people. So maybe it's that wall, and it's like they're not there, but they're there. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. It definitely, like I said, for me, it's extremely important, or it's a key factor is the energy in the room. It's not the
yeah.
quantity of people,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
Like I, when I got married to my ex-husband, we had a gathering of, our closest 200 friends. And I don't say that
Mm-hmm.
like it really was. It was 200 people and we had the
Yeah.
best time, but it was because it was people that I knew, people that had that positive energy. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, like I said, it's not quantity, it's their energy and who they are. Because
Okay.
like you said, I could very easily go to a dinner, like you said, a perfect example with 5 people. And if I don't know that, I hate small talk. That will drain my
Yeah.
battery the fastest over anything.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so a dinner party with 5 people that I don't know, I'm gonna hate and it's gonna drain me and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna like not
Yeah.
sleep for days, but like bunker down for days to recoup.
Right.
So
Hmm. Yeah.
that's been my
Maybe.
experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, growing up as a child, you knew that you were different because you refer to yourself
Mhm.
as shy, right? That's what it
Yeah.
sounds.
Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I think I might have used the word shy as well. Or maybe that's just a label people put on me. They would say I'm shy or I'm quiet. But it was always in like a kind of a negative tone.
Mm.
And so I don't think I didn't realize or hear of the term introvert until probably when I was like in college. And maybe
Yeah.
that was because we were more on the internet. And so then you come across things. Um, but like in my just personal environment, no one mentioned ever being like an introvert.
Yeah. I don't know that that was a term I ever would have known. I don't know if shy was
Mm-hmm.
ever used for me in a negative light, but it was definitely,
Mm-hmm.
I did associate it. Like once I did learn the term introvert, I associated the two. And I thought, well,
Mm-hmm.
that seems weird. Like it was a weird connection. And I still never like saw myself as that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I always felt like I was very outspoken, and like I said,
Hmm.
like you, I can talk for hours. I'll talk about,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
Hmm.
So, and you started talking a little bit about this, but like, why did you decide to start your own business? Like, what inspired you to do that?
I think, when I got to that point that I mentioned about just burning everything to the ground, the one of the primary sort of culminating events was that there were shifts. So I was a teacher for 20 years.
Okay.
And for a few years in there, I had held a role of the title was instructional coach. And so I was coaching teachers on instruction. It's just what it sounds like. And
Hmm.
they made some shifts in my role, and I was going to go back to the classroom. And I think that was one of the things where I was like, you know what, I don't want to go back to teaching in the classroom. I
Hmm.
don't. And so somebody said, well, you have this coaching background now. Why don't you go coach people, like life coaching? And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. Had no clue really what it was at all. But I knew that I really enjoyed when I was an instructional coach. Like that was one of my favorite times in my career. And so I thought, well, gosh, if I can do that same job
Hmm.
on a more personal, intimate level, how powerful would that be? Um, and then, it was a process of uncovering layers of myself. I tell people often that, like, my business has taken me a number of years to really get off the ground, but it's because I really am learning so much along the way about who I am, who I'm meant to serve, and what my message is meant to be.
Hmm.
Um, and as I'm unpacking layers of myself, and it's just becoming so, so important to me to connect with women who are just really at their core, whether they're willing to admit it to themselves yet or not. There's a component of dis-ease and unhappiness.
Mm. Okay. Interesting. So, as you got started with this business, what's a challenge that you had to overcome?
I chuckle because I told you I jumped in sort of head first, right? Somebody said, "Oh, go be a
Yeah.
life coach," and I went, "Okay." So truly, I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, and then in January of that year, I put in for my resignation that would take effect coming in June, so the end of that school year, which gave me about 6 months. And I thought for sure that was going to be enough time to get my business at least up and running and sustainable and whatever. And what I hadn't factored in was that I knew nothing about running a business.
Mm.
Zero.
Yeah.
So when I hired a coach and she said, well, what's your client experience and what does your funnel look like? And where's your email list housed? And like all those things. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what? She's like, well, you need an email list so that you can keep track of people and communicate with people. And you need to do this. And what's your social media plan? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to post every day. And she's like, okay. Like I knew nothing.
Yeah.
That has been my challenge. I knew nothing. Um, and I think to, even to connect it back to the introvert side of me, I think another challenge is just that. Like
Mm.
before we hopped on the recording, I was telling you how I've been quite busy today, and it's been a lot of my kids always call it peopling, right? I've been talking to
Yeah.
people. I was on a call. I had to go meet with somebody. I've been peopling, and so now my energy is going down, and that's fine. But I still have things that I need to get done in my business, but I don't have the energy to do it. And so it's really been a journey of figuring out, like, okay, what can I do right now in this moment that's going to actually give me a little bit more energy to push me through rather
Hmm.
than completely disconnecting? Because that's kind of my go-to, when I get overwhelmed, when I get tired, when my energy's low, when I'm nervous, I tend to retreat.
Yeah.
And then it's, turn on Hulu, turn on Netflix, hit a binge, whatever. Whereas, finding more productive ways to recoup my energy is definitely something that I'm working on as I move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, your challenges are common.
Yeah.
I've faced them as well. Like definitely when I started my business, I did not know anyone personally who started their own business. So it was just me figuring out as I went. I think
Yep.
that's one of the skills that introverts have. Like we're problem solvers. We're we can figure stuff out. And I think it's great that you actually reached out to a coach or someone to get help because that was one thing that I did not really do. And I think it would have been a bit helpful if I would
Hmm.
have done that. At least I would have had less mistakes.
Yeah. We
But
learn through those though, right? We learn through the mistakes.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And now I share my experiences with other people so they don't have to make those same mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
And
And I was just gonna say, I think, oh no, I just lost my thought. I'm so sorry. You go ahead. It'll come
oh,
back to me.
okay. It's okay. It happens to me all the time. Um, so you also mentioned about, the uh lack of energy. Like how do you what do you do to help you recharge?
That's a good question. Um, I truly one of my favorite things, it's a little chilly today, even though the sun is out. It's a little chilly,
Mhm.
but one of my favorite things is just to go for a walk.
Yeah.
I am very blessed. There's a trail not very far from here, and so I can get a really nice 2 mile loop, a little 45
Mm.
minute something, and it's just perfect. I can clear my head. There's enough nature that I can kind of disconnect, but it's super close and convenient to get to. And so that's probably one of my favorite ways.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most productive ways. I have some unproductive ways. Like I said, hop in like a lot of people listening, I'm sure, like hopping on my phone to distract me for a while or turning the TV on, which are not productive for me at all, right? They can kind of get you sucked in and down the rabbit hole. Um, I love at night before I go to bed, I love doing yin yoga for just to kind of stretch and move whatever sort of stagnant energy is left from the day.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's been kind of a nice thing. And then I absolutely always start my day in my little, I call it my Zen space where I'm journaling and meditating and doing, setting my intentions for the day just to kind of have my head on right and
Hmm.
really set my energy before I take on the day.
Yeah. You said something that's interesting to me. About as you said, the hiking was a productive way that you
Hmm.
recharge, and then some of the other ways are unproductive. But
Hmm.
is recharging your energy supposed to be productive? Like, I, I don't know. I'm like, what?
That's fair. I think when I say unproductive, I don't know that they necessarily recharge me.
Oh,
They
okay.
dis they disconnect me so that I'm not being
Mm,
more depleted, but they don't recharge me.
gotcha.
So maybe
Okay.
that's a better way to say it.
That's interesting. So I have to sit down and think about the ways that I recharge and is it actually recharging me?
Yeah.
Because I spend a lot of time on Netflix watching something.
Oh,
And
I
so
100%. I
I,
just finished CSI, like all 16 seasons. Like not, it's been over
yeah,
a number, but yeah, like 100%. I will do that.
I feel like maybe it depends on what I'm watching, but I feel like in a way, like watching stuff does recharge me because it's allowing my brain to rest. And so if
Sure.
I'm not thinking too hard, um, yeah, but I'll have to think about that.
Mhm.
I did start hiking last year. I actually was so surprised that I enjoyed being outside,
Mhm.
walking in nature because I'm 41 now, and I would have never done that in my younger years. And so, but I've really been enjoying that time. And it really just helps to clear my mind. And
Mhm.
I sometimes get a lot of great ideas while I'm on my walks as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've actually started, I used to put my earbuds in and listen to music while I walked or listen to a podcast or whatever and kind of tried to multitask with that. And I just started, I don't take my earbuds with me anymore at all. I just
Mm,
truly try to disconnect. Like I bring my phone for safety in case I need to, get in touch with anybody, but otherwise I don't. I just really try to be present in the
mm,
moment with the nature. And it's not like I'm hiking through the gravel or anything. It's a paved
right.
trail to be present and, listen to the squirrels and the grass and leaves. And
Hmm.
we've got some deer around and just really take all that in. That recharges me like nobody's business.
Hmm. I have to try that. I usually keep one earbud in because sometimes when I hear the animals or just the nature, I think someone's following me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get nervous. So I need the music to kind of distract me. But
Yeah. I hear that.
yeah. Um, so what advice would you give to someone who's introverted who is, just starting their business or thinking about it, but just not sure? What advice would you give to them?
Um, I was just having a conversation about this on a different call that I was on about taking courageous action every day. And I think as an introvert, you talked about how you didn't have a coach. And I think, I don't know if this is being an introvert or if this is part of my personality, but I tend to try to do it all myself. I think I can do it myself. And I know there's some childhood trauma behind that. But like I said, I don't know if it's related to being an introvert or not, but I would encourage everybody who is an introvert to really tap into some of the things that we've talked about in terms of knowing what fills your cup
Mhm.
and what doesn't. And like I said, for me, I know plugging into the TV is going to disconnect me, but it's not going to fill me back up. And
Yeah.
again, no shame in that. Like for some people it might, but really getting to know yourself, to know your limits, to know, because running a business does require a significant amount of energy. There is a lot of people don't think of this, but there is actually a lot of interacting with people.
Hmm.
And so really knowing what your limits are and being thoughtful too about your schedule with all of that. That's something that I'm continually working on with my coach, is just having an ideal schedule, really thinking about. A perfect example is yesterday. So it's just kind of Monday vibes are all around, right? Because it's Monday. Um, I still do some substitute teaching. And so yesterday I was substitute teaching and I came home and I had a call within 30 minutes of when I got home. And my child needed to pop up for something because they live in nearby. And then I had like three other calls. I didn't prep my day well, right? I think sometimes as business owners, we think that we have to do it all. And financially, like right now, I am doing it all. I am the CEO, I am the CFO, I am the marketing, I am all the
Right.
things. But how I structure my time so that I can do all of that well. And that's a very personal thing. Like I said, again, knowing what gives you energy, what doesn't, and making sure that you have sort of balance and harmony throughout your week so that you are at your best in those moments, right? It would not serve me to have an interview like this at 7 p.m. Some people thrive at 7 p.m. at night. I do not. And so to schedule something like that and just be mindful of it. Or if there are days of the week where maybe if you're still working your day job like I am, that you have busy days at work, then schedule your evenings appropriately. Don't make client calls on those, especially if you're an introvert. Don't make client calls if you have a busy sort of people interaction kind of day at work. And that might mean adjusting your schedule every week. So make sure you're being flexible with it. Like I know my coach, she's got a very set schedule. Like Mondays are this day and Tuesdays are this day and Wednesdays are this day and Thursdays are that day. And I can't do that. I really do need to be mindful of what else do I have going on in the week and schedule around that.
That's really, really great advice. When I first started my business, I was just excited to get clients and be
Mm-hmm.
making money. And so my calendars were full. I was busy all day, every day, Sunday through Saturday. And it got to a point where I was so burnt out and I just could not do it anymore. And so now I'm definitely a lot more mindful about my calendar, the services that I offer. So I
Mm-hmm.
reduce them greatly because like I just want to do work that's easy for me to do, that I find enjoyment. But then that doesn't also take up all my time either, because I need a lot of flexibility because some days I wake up and I just don't want to do anything.
Right.
And I said, I, for my peace of mind and my health, I need to be able to just say, I'm not going to work today. Not every day, but every blue
Yeah.
moon, I need to have that ability to be
That's
able to
that
do that.
that's that freedom
Mm-hmm.
we talked about at the beginning, right? Like
Yep.
and that's one of the reasons so many people go into business. And so yeah, honoring that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was exactly the reason why I started one of the reasons was so that I could have more freedom, but that's not what ended up happening when I first started.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. So
Hmm. Wow. Well, Karsta, it has been wonderful chatting with you. Before we go, I wanted to give you the opportunity if there's anything else you want to share with our listeners, or if you just want to let them know where we can find you if we want to learn more about you.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I love the niche conversation around being introverted because it's a very specific thing, but I think it's really important for people to really become in tune with themselves, and whether it's being an introvert or an empath or being super extroverted, whatever, but learning who you are and what brings joy and fulfillment and energy into your world that truly makes you happy, I think is so important. And so thank you for holding this space for those of us that don't like to talk to people, right? That's what they think. Everybody thinks we don't like to talk to people.
Right.
Um, I can be found I'm trying to hang out a little bit more over on LinkedIn, and it's just at Karsta.Marie. And then I'm still kind of hanging out over on Instagram a little bit too. Same thing, Karsta.Marie over there. Um, Otherwise, they can also email me. My website's karstamarie.com. Email should be on there. There should be links and things like that, although I am in the process of updating all of that. But and I would love to connect with any of your listeners. Truly, like I said, it's for me, it's all about helping women navigate through that transition and figuring out, getting some clarity and saying, this is not what I want, and I don't know what I want. So let's navigate that transition together.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. So we'll definitely check out your website and your
Thank you.
social media. Thank you so much for joining me today, Karsta Marie.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you to our audience for listening. This has been another episode of the Building Her Dream podcast. If you've enjoyed it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe, leave us a review, and stay up to date with what we're doing by visiting www.buildingherdream.com.